In this episode, I want to talk about how I'm going to grade this semester. But before I get into the details, I want to remind you about my teaching philosophy. Believe it or not, if you haven't figured it out yet, but my number one goal is to help students be less anxious. And I believe that the best way to do that is to provide as many choices as you can have. So that's why I have buffet. By definition, you're choosing things. Also, we have this semi-permeable membrane that you can switch between groups depending on what best suits you. So if you are anxious in my class, it's because you're choosing to be anxious or frustrated. For example, if you're a freshman and you're taking AP, that's the prescription for a very anxious situation. But some people choose to do that, and it's their choice. So in providing choices that cover the spectrum of possible students I have to think about, who's going to be in my class. So I want to be able to accommodate somebody who, for example, really wants to get into Berkeley. That's their dream school. And so they take like all 6 APs or whatever. And then let's say they're including mine, and then they find out that they really don't like to code. Then they're like torn. How do I deal with this? I need my grade pump GPA boost, but I don't like this. They can switch into buffet, and when they do that, they might find out that, wow, okay, I'm going to keep my other 5 APs. I'm going to try to ace those, but when I get to Neato's class, I can chill, and maybe I'll play Fortnite for a while, and it's relaxing. Like, that's fine with me. In fact, that's a good thing, because that student has figured out, oh, this is how I can be less anxious given what my goals are. Similarly, I want to be able to help a kid that, like, for example, hates English, and then they have to take 2 years of foreign language to satisfy the UC requirement in order to go to college. And if they can't do English very well, how on earth are they ever going to do a foreign language? But they love to code. In fact, they code 24/7, and they just can't get enough. So I want to be able to help that kid also. So in the spirit of trying to offer what I can, I want that range of student to be happy in my class. So why am I telling you what my philosophy is again, when you know it already? Well, I'd like to maintain this goal of trying to help you be less anxious in this new crazy world that we're in. And I try to think about how can that happen? Well, first of all, the craziness, like the word normal has been removed from our vocabulary. Like when you go to the grocery store, the shelves are picked off. You can't buy toilet paper. You have to wait in line sometimes. You have to stand 6 feet apart. You're stuck in your houses with your parents. Like, I can imagine how that would lead to a very anxious situation. So is there anything I can do to make it so that in the big picture, you're less anxious? And that's what helped me figure out how I'm going to grade you. Okay, so here's the big reveal. Everybody already has a semester grade for my class, and that is whatever you earned from me in the 3rd quarter. So all you're required to do from here on out is to watch my vlog episodes and comment. And if you do that, you'll have your 3rd quarter grade. Now, what happens if you're not happy with your 3rd quarter grade? So there aren't going to be any weekly quizzes. So you're probably wondering, how am I going to decide what your grade is if you're not happy with it? And the answer is, I won't. We will. So I will meet with all the students that want to try to improve their grade from whatever it was in the 3rd quarter. And for example, if you're in buffet, it's very likely that the culminating project in Unity is to make like a Mario type game. And so if you did that, you worked through the labs, you learned all the skill set that you need in order to make a game like that in Unity, it's very likely in this discussion that you'll end up with an A in the class, because that's a very solid conclusion point for that class. And then you'll say, well, what about AP? What if I'm not happy with my grade in AP? And so for the AP crowd, I'm going to have your grade be, your final grade be, whatever you get on the AP test. And what about super APs? So this actually is a good measure of your passion, super APs, because if you're sitting around saying, oh, I'm bored, oh, I have nothing to do, oh, time is going so slow, I'm going to argue that this field is not your thing, because this should be a prime time to go nuts. And if you remember back, I posted a matrix somewhere that had skill sets across the columns, and then the rows were your names. And they were things like make an Android phone app, make an iPhone phone app, learn Ruby, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you're not attached to a project, this is a great time to just march across those columns and learn each of those things, so that when the craziness goes away and we're back together again, you're going to be a prime candidate for any project that walks through our door. So, you know, the GitHub commits should be flying through the roof if you're really into this subject matter. And so there's another group potentially, and that is, let's say that you're not happy with your third quarter grade and you're sick of coding. If you're in AP and you're signed up to take the test, don't take the test. You can get a full refund. The College Board is being super nice. If you're in Buffet and you're trying to download Unity and the CyberDog ate your program or whatever, I'd like to offer sort of another option, which is potentially non-coding, but it's related to like helping out the world. And I've heard some rumblings about the robotics kids maybe firing up the 3D printers and making surgical masks for the healthcare workers. And if that's something that you'd like to get involved with and show how you would make a contribution, OMG, like that, by all means. If you want to take the time from my class and contribute it to the community to help out in some way, your conference will go very well. Send me an email on what you're thinking about, and I'd be happy to work with you. So I've obviously thought about the crowd that, let's say you're in Buffet and you earned an A third quarter, and as soon as you heard the offer for how I'm grading, what went into your head is, I just got a huge number of hours where I can play Overwatch. And every time one of Neato's episodes shows up on YouTube, I'll just reach over, click OK in the comments, never press the play button. And the fact of the matter is, there's people like this in the world. And the thing that I want to warn you about, if you fall into this category, is this behavior doesn't really go away. So if you're doing it now, you're likely to always try to find the easy path. And the thing I would warn everybody about is, let's say somebody like this decides they want to be a commercial airline pilot. And so when they're going through training and they have to take the online course and they decide that they want to skip it because I can just skip right over it, and the name of the course was landing gear, I hope and pray that I would never be on their plane. So I'm almost done. And I feel like this episode has been pretty, I've been pretty stiff, and I'm actually a little nervous because I really want to get these ideas across, because I know grades are important to you, and I want to do the best I can to help you understand where I'm coming from, and also what you need to do to be successful in my class. I want to finish with something that I got from Mrs. Milano, and she sent the thing that I'm about ready to read out to all the faculty. And it's from her relatives who are educators in Louisiana. And they lived through Hurricane Katrina as teachers. And so they sent her a note of encouragement recently, and then Mrs. Milano in turn sent it to the staff. And it really had a big impact on me, and it actually has a lot to do with how I decided to do what I'm doing. So I'm going to read that to you. And before I read the Mrs. Milano note, I wanted to make one other comment, and that is, I was so worried about getting all the ideas across to you. I actually wrote up all the words that I wanted to say. It's like a multi-page thing. And my initial version of this, I read. I had a neighbor videotape me. But after I listened to it, it didn't work. So I hate to listen to people read things, and I certainly didn't like listening to myself read something, so I'm sure you wouldn't have. But the thing from Mrs. Milano was something I had to read. So that's the one piece from this that I'm going to use. So here's Mrs. Milano's note.
Hurricane Katrina taught the teachers on the Gulf Coast that an interrupted year is not the end of the world. It's okay if you don't get to cover all the content. It's okay if your grades are inflated because you can't test as normal. It's okay if your students are not able to complete the coursework as assigned. We worried that missing part of the year would have lasting effects, but it didn't. Our Katrina kids are doctors, lawyers, teachers, hairdressers, nurses, business owners, engineers, you name it, they're all doing it all over the world. Don't sweat what was probably ultimately insignificant, but embrace the opportunity to stay connected with your students in order to build relationships and to reinforce a sense of normalcy for them.